I realize that we're running behind schedule, so I'll try to be quick, but not cut too much out of the presentation. I'm very excited to be here today, and it's great to see support for Korea's emissions trading scheme. I've been in the offset market developing offsets for over 7 years now. And my company, Carbon Credit Solutions, about 2 years ago, we decided to make it our mission to go out and share our experiences and the lessons that we've learned developing offsets in the Alberta market and in our attempts in the California market, and share them with countries and industry, because we want to help facilitate the generation of real emission reductions through offsets in an effective, cost-efficient manner as quickly as possible. Today in North America, there's 5 different emissions trading systems. California's, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in the eastern United States, and in Canada, we have the province of Quebec, the province of British Columbia, and the province of Alberta. And we have a 4th province, Ontario, which is in the process of developing its own emissions trading system. And I want to point out that although Canada was the first and perhaps the only country to pull out of the Kyoto Protocol, when on the Ontario market starts, over 85% of our population will live in a jurisdiction that has an emissions trading system. So despite the federal government's lack of interest in doing anything, the provinces are moving ahead. Now, although California might be the most well-known emissions trading system in North America, it certainly isn't the oldest, nor is it the most experienced. That crown belongs to Alberta. Alberta was the first compliance market in North America, and it's probably the most experienced. And in the field of offsets, the market's generated over 30 million tons of emission reductions through a variety of different project types. So we have a lot to share with respect to best practices around developing emission reductions. Click. Hang on. So a quick comparison between South Korea and Alberta. Annual emissions in Korea were about 690 megatons in 2012. Alberta had 249 megatons. We have a population of a little over 4 million people, which means our emissions per capita are 69 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per person, which makes us one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases per capita in the world. And it's this simple statistic that drove the government of Alberta to create an emissions trading market. And we're also a very large province. Korea has an area of about 100,000 square kilometers. Alberta has over 600,000 square kilometers. And the map's not great, but you're very tiny compared to the province of Alberta, even though you have a lot more people. And it's due to our size that we've been able to develop offset credits in the biological sector very effectively. And this is one of the things that's led us to learn a great deal about development of projects. Now, Alberta's market was pioneering when it was created. It was the first market in the world to embrace aggregated projects, or programs of activities, as I call it in the CDM. Approximately 1/3 of the offsets that we've generated have come from aggregated projects. It was also the first jurisdiction in the world to recognize emission offsets that result from best management practices in the agricultural sector. Now, the United States is slowly catching up with their rice cultivation methodology, but we still lead with the agricultural sector. But most importantly, when our market was developed, the stakeholders, the government, recognized that the market would not be perfect. They knew that they didn't have all the answers, and so they adopted a philosophy to learn by doing. And this gave every stakeholder in the market the ability to participate in the improvement of the market by sharing their experiences working within it. The choice to learn by doing caused many problems, but it also has given our industry a competitive advantage in that they're well prepared to participate in new markets in North America. Since 2007, industry has generated 50 million tons of emission reductions through technological changes. We've developed over 30 million tons of emission reductions through offsets, and the government has collected approximately $500 million, these are Canadian dollars, in what I call allowances. They're not allowances in the sense of the EU ETS, but it's a penalty that emitters pay. So the total value of our market is well in excess of $800 million. It's clear that offsets play a critical role in our market. You could see 30 million offsets compared to 50 million reductions. We don't have a cap on how many offsets can be used. Industry can buy as many offsets as they can. Well, as they can't get as many as they want, but they can try. Our offsets are viewed as a low-risk compliance option now. We've gotten very good at creating them. And over 10 million offsets have been generated, and the majority of those has come from the agricultural sector. I had prepared a video, but it wasn't running on our program, but you'll have to use your imagination. My company generates credits from the agricultural sector. We have over 2.3 million hectares of land under contract that generates emission reductions year over year. That's over 23,000 square kilometers of land. That's 1/5 the size of South Korea. So you imagine 1/5 of your country participating in biological offset productions through agriculture. And this gets me to the heart of this discussion around offset development. It's complicated. It's data-centric. You need a vast amount of data, or I do, to be able to create offsets in the agricultural sector. And you require discipline. Project developers need discipline, and they need systems, and they need well-defined processes to create low-risk offsets. We talk about MRV, or MMRV, Measurement, Monitoring, Reporting, and Verification. And I would argue that these activities are high-level activities that we use to make sure that offsets that are created meet the regulatory requirements. But MRV in and of itself doesn't actually create a low-risk, high-quality credit. You could ask the question, why is Korea's industry so much better than some others? Why are their cars so popular in North America? It's because they've been built with attention to detail, using sophisticated manufacturing processes and a philosophy of quality control. And I would argue that offset development requires the same attention to detail and the same philosophy. Developing offsets at scale requires well-defined business processes. Project developers need to manage risks all along the development process. They need to develop and implement preventative, detective, and corrective controls to ensure that every offset that's generated represents a real reduction. And they must overlay all of these activities with sound project management. Imagine what it's like when I have to deal with over 1,000 farmers and over 7,000 landowners to collect all of their data to generate credits. I need a very robust system to be able to do that. But it wasn't always like that in our market. In the early years, we didn't know that. And quite frankly, I remember the day when I came to the realization that we had to develop offset credits in a different manner. And what we did within our company is we adopted a philosophy of manufacturing offset credits. We created controls and we dove right into that manufacturing philosophy, focusing on quality control, making sure that we would pass every verification and any subsequent government audit. We have very sophisticated data management systems. You can't create offset credits on an Excel spreadsheet. You need software security. You need data centers. You need to save your information in a secure location. You need well-defined data collection processes. And as I already alluded to, quality assurance processes. And all of this has to be documented. For anybody here that's thinking of purchasing an offset credit, I would encourage you to actually go and talk to your project developer. Get engaged in the process and make sure that your project developers are using best management practices. They should have process flow documentation. They should have training manuals for all their staff. They should have risk and control documents, documented procedures, and exception handling guidelines. It's what's required to create high quality credits. Now you know that there's no such thing as perfect or complete. The Korean ETS market is nowhere near perfect, and it's nowhere near complete. But if everyone in the room adopts an attitude of continuous improvement, you can help move your market forward, and you can help make it better through participating in it. I believe that offsets are critical to all emissions trading systems. Offsets allow companies to direct their dollars into projects that can have direct impact in the community. So it's not just an environmental benefit, but it can be social and economic. It's time for people here to learn by doing. It's time to get involved in the market. The early adopters, or the companies that took action early in the market in Alberta, dominate that space in terms of buying offsets and securing supply. And they're very comfortable working within these markets. And as our markets have expanded in North America, they're well prepared to participate within them. By choosing to participate in your market, you can do the same thing. You can get ahead of the game. I did some research before I came and found this Korean saying. It's not correct. If you don't walk today, you will have to run tomorrow. That's what some wise Koreans have said, and it's something you might want to consider adopting. So as I said at the start, our mission corporately is to help promote, to educate, to engage, and assist companies and countries in developing offsets, real reductions in sound, efficient, economically viable manners. So with that, I will end, and I'll open the floor to any questions. Thank you very much.